To understand how to fix the system and whether the interventions are or the various types are going to fix the system, I think we have to understand the various responsibilities of what caused the current crisis. I identified 5. Some of them have already been pointed out. Number 1, first of all, don't forget that behind and before everything there is a real estate bubble. The responsibility of the real estate bubble, which is worldwide, lies entirely on monetary policies that had everywhere interest rate too low for too long. Negative real interest rate were everywhere. Not just Greenspan responsibilities, even in Europe, I mean, everybody rushed for a mortgage, even in Italy when interest rates were 2%. So, first of all, we have to discuss about how to run monetary policy with asset prices fluctuating so much. Second, responsibility for the subprime. And again, it's already been pointed out, don't forget that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, first of all, were not private because everybody agreed that they had an implicit government guarantees. They were 2 institutions there that were led to grow, issuing debt up to, say, between 1/5 and 1/4 of the debt of the entire U.S. federal government. So something that by definition nobody could have rescued from the private sector. And the subprime, the product starts in 2004, and in my view it was a deliberate policy of the U.S. government to subsidize the housing for the poor people. I heard several explanations of why that is so. One, by the way, is very interesting because it is written in the book by Alan Greenspan, and he says, if I understand correctly, says, well, deregulation is good, capitalism is good, but it produces an income distribution which is too skewed. And sometimes it's not socially tenable. So in order to sort of buy back to the capitalist model, we have to sort of give something to the housing, some property to the poor people. I don't know whether it's an interesting or not explanation. What I'm saying is the subprime problem is a product of a semi-government agencies. By the way, he ended up exactly as it should be, since the government gave an implicit guarantee. Sooner or later, the market requested the explicit guarantee, and it was nationalized back. Third, responsibility for what has been described, all the sort of instruments, the over-the-counter derivatives that grew. They are illiquid instruments, and they are behind the confidence crisis that we have. And the over-the-counter market in those derivatives has been already recalled, violates all the basic principles of a very efficient market, namely, first, the short and the long, namely the buyer and the seller of any product, must agree on a price. They have to book the same thing at the same price. But without a centralized clearance system for most of them, everybody was able to, both the 2 sides of the same contract were allowed, and still are allowed, to price the same product in 2 different ways. Basically, everybody could write the price they wanted. Second, there got to be a maximum unknown leverage. Margins are set for there. I mean, futures market, which have been recalled, there is a perfectly functioning market. They're highly leveraged, but you have to post margin and mark-to-market the margin, and there is a centralized clearance system. Now, the reason is why it is such an obvious, inefficient market was built and let grow. And again, I share 100% what Antonio Foglia said. Basically, in 2004, the maximum leverage for brokerage houses and security houses were lifted in the United States by the Security and Exchange Commission. And the parent house, named the Five Investment Bank, basically were able to create a market that they controlled. Most of the profit came out of producing this instrument and trading. Proprietary trading accounts for about 60 and 70% on average of the profit of houses like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. And it was an oligopoly. I mean, it's five investment banks in the United States, three commercial banks, American commercial banks, and say five commercial banks with extensive investment banking operation in Europe, basically control the entire worldwide capital markets. That's an oligopoly that created a market in which they could make all sorts of profits. Unfortunately, there were paper profits when they tried to cash in. Actually, somebody tried to cash in and realize what was the true market price of these instruments. What we know as the current crisis started. So it's just a matter of a huge concentration. What are we going to have? Well, the concentration is going to increase. The universal banks will win. And as a part of the rescue of the banking system, which I observe worldwide, the product that instead of 8 American institutions are going to have between 4 and 5, maybe 4. And out of the 5 European institutions, are going to get 3. And even worse, they are universal banks. So we are going exactly in the opposite direction. That's a typical case in which this, regulated, captured the regulator. Basically, Wall Street ran the show and still is running. I regard the Paulson bailout as a bailout of Wall Street.